G'day, welcome to another episode of a Backyard Ultra podcast, episode number 3. This weekend we've got the Satellite World Championships at Mirrim Wurnit. So as guests, Peter Munns and Peter Clarke called in and we had a good chat about everything to do with Mirrim Wurnit and the Backyard Ultra World Championships that are being held there this weekend. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, thanks for joining the podcast today, guys. Really good of you to find the time. So basically, I reckon a good place to start would just be about Mirrim Wurnit, how the history of the event and how it came to be not only the location of holding Backyard Ultras, but also the first ever Backyard Ultra in Australia.
So I start this one? I reckon we'll both have something to say on it.
Thanks.
The history goes back to 2017 that we first started, the idea first came. So Peter Munns, who's the other Peter on the call, was in the process of purchasing a property, a country home, country residence in Victoria. We both used to live in Hawthorne. And we also together ran a kind of a running group, the Yarra Trail Runners. So we ran a lot together. He was purchasing this farm and the two of us were doing, we were kind of training to do a long distance kind of FKT attempt. We were chatting about the property and obviously the conversation came up as to whether it would be appropriate to put on a running event. And we talked about cross country potentially or fell running, something a bit different, something a bit out there. We had the idea of doing a festival. When it came around to, I think it's 2017 or maybe 2018, when bigs really hit the media with big totals. And the obvious discussion then was, well, maybe we could run a backyard ultra on the property, and maybe that would be the sweet spot for us. Because, you've got limited space, so we can't do a normal ultra on the farm, which is kind of 90 or 100 acres. Yeah. So the idea of doing loops or some sort of out and back system seems to be the way. So 2018, we decided to test the concept. And it was early days even for the World Backyard Ultra community. So we didn't even really know the rules. We designed quite a difficult course that was just under 6Ks. And we invited 7 or 8 friends, other runners to come. We said, let's just try and do this as a fat ass and run it and see what you guys think, see if this is a concept that works. So technically, we ran our first Backyard Ultra in 2018. Yeah. Which the other Peter will quickly jump in and tell you that he won. But I, as the assist, was kind of happy that we'd proved the concept by then. So I was quite happy to back off. It was 9 yards. 9 yards is a very tough course on a hot day.
Yeah, well done.
I think we had an idea then.
I might just jump in there and say that it was in November of 2018. And so you're absolutely right. It was getting hot. The grass was starting to grow fairly long. I think a few people pulled out, even a few ultra runners actually pulled out simply because they were constantly worried about there being snakes in the grass.
Generally going, what the hell is this? This is stupid.
But Pete and I really wanted to prove the concept, so we were hoping to get, just 8, 9 or 10 laps. And I think Pete decided he had enough at 8, and I under the rules was forced to actually do one more lap to make it 9. But, at that stage, we'd done more than a marathon, which was fine. And I think we'd proven the concept. The course was 5.7 Ks, if I remember correctly. So we thought, with a bit of ingenuity, we can stretch it out to the regulation 6.7. I think we started off, Pete, by just going around the boundaries. And so by making some adjustments, by having an out and back and a few other things, we got to a 6.7 course in the end. And pretty much, by the end of 2018, I think we'd actually decided, all right, let's do something in 2019. Let's just make sure we pick the right time of year. There is a special reason for picking the right time of year, not only because of heat and long grass, but also because we cross a creek, which is very famous in Mirrim Wurnit, in the Mirrim Wurnit Back Paddock Ultra. But at some times of the year, the creek is just a trickle, maybe not even that. At other times, it's an unpassable river. So we have to be very careful about that. But more about the creek crossing later, I think.
Yeah.
But a little bit more on the evolution of the event, if I can, though. So we were set after that November 2018. We decided we were going to do it, and we started to announce it. And we had already created our Facebook group, I think. But one of the real tricks to this was because Bigs had then happened again and had its really big totals. I contacted Laz via Messenger at the time and said to him, "Hey, Laz, we've decided to put on an event of this format in Australia. I reckon it would be really good for us and potentially good for you if we could offer our winner an entry into Bigs. What do you reckon?" And he came back to me only about 10 days later.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm about to announce that you guys are having an entry to Bigs and we're doing golden tickets and it's going to be a thing." Yeah. So I like to think we played a part in the thing. I'm not going to take credit for coming up with the golden tickets entirely, but I think we may have played a bit of a role in planting the seed for that being a thing. And then when we were able to announce that we had that, suddenly runners took it seriously and wanted to come, and that set us up. And so that's really how it started.
Yeah. And so you've had officially you've had 2 events now, is that correct? And this will be
we had 2019, which was our inaugural one.
Yeah.
And then we had 2020 was all organised, and we even had Laz coming over in 2020, and we had him booked.
Yeah.
And then we postponed, cancelled, and then 2021 postponed, cancelled. In 2022 we had this year's event.
Yeah, and that was obviously postponed and cancelled, obviously because of COVID, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's, you might even say, if you looked at our runners' bibs last year in 2022, just like the Olympics, you may actually say that it was actually the 2021 back paddock ultra held in 2022. But yes, I mean it was quite painful. We did seriously try to put on an event. Actually, in fact, I think we actually tried to put on an event maybe 2 or 3 times each year, but it was always impossible with lockdowns and so on and so forth. 2022, it was the big re-entry, I suppose. We had it in June in 2019. It just proved a little bit too cold up here in country Victoria. So moved it to April, which I think worked pretty well this year.
And how long has it been that Mirrim Wurnit's been the venue for this year's Satellite World Champs? How did that come about?
That happened about, I'm going to say it's about a year ago.
Yeah.
Laz reached out to the race directors in Australia with the concept. I can't remember the exact sequence of events, but asked who was interested in hosting it. And a couple of us were. And there were some conversations, and there ended up being a poll amongst an anonymous poll amongst the RDs for it. And that's how it ended up happening to be Mirrim Wurnit.
Yeah.
Just back to 2020 when we cancelled it though, factoid. Peter, I think you'll remember this. We organised a little virtual get together on the day the event was supposed to be, and we had a couple of runners in New South Wales. We had a little team up in the Dandenongs, and you had a gathering of 3 or 4 people at Mirrim Wurnit. So the amount of people that were allowed to gather, and we said, let's do this online on Zoom for 12 hours. And so we actually ran that, and quite a few runners did 12 hours. And I also contacted Laz then, and I didn't tell any of the runners this. And I said, can you jump on Zoom at exactly this time and ring the bell for us? And he did that. So we had these Zoom people all over Victoria and Australia, and Laz and his wife jumped on, gave a little spiel and rang the bell. Yeah, people loved it.
Yeah, they would have too. And the actual course itself, I understand that it's ever evolving. It's been different for each event, and it's going to be different again this weekend as well.
Yeah, that's right. So it's called the Mirrim Wurnit Back Paddock Ultra, the normal event, and the reason it's called that, Mirrim Wurnit, I should say, means deep creek in the local Woiwurrung language of the Wurundjeri people. So our farm here is on Deep Creek, and Deep Creek is the creek that you cross to get over to the back paddock.
Right.
And so it has a lot of significance for us. The back paddock, it's quite gnarly. There's cow trails. There's no trails. There's a lot of cross country. There's a very steep hill to come back down when you finish. Having said all that, most runners absolutely love it, and they do find it's the highlight of the course. As I said, you have to cross the creek to get over to it. And each year we've built a little makeshift bridge out of pallets and boards. It's no more than that. Unfortunately, it usually deteriorates halfway through the event, so we need to go and rebuild it. But and people sometimes fall in and get their feet wet and all the rest of it. But it's a lot of fun, and it really is a signature part of the course. Having said all that, we really decided that not only the creek crossing, well, at the moment the creek's in flood with all the rain we've been having, so crossing would be impossible. But secondly, we thought in order to be competitive on the world stage, we really couldn't have that very difficult section. If you're just competing to win the Mirrim Wurnit Back Paddock Ultra, it's fine. You can still do your 40 laps or what have you on that course. But we did think for the satellite event, we really needed to come up with a course which would be competitive, but still showcase the best aspects of the farm.
Yeah.
So that was fine. We did have a course that was exactly 6.7056 kilometres long about 2 weeks ago. Well, in fact, we've had it for a couple of months. But of course, with all the rain we've been having, and anybody in New South Wales and Queensland probably feels the pain worse than we do in Victoria. But again, with all the rain that we've been having, there are parts of the farm that are quite boggy and all the rest. And we don't want runners to have to change, shoes every other lap, and let alone just get bogged down. Sorry to use the pun with all of that. So we've actually come up with a course which we think is very competitive. It avoids the bog, but it is a little bit repetitive. Basically, we do 4 laps of a 1.4 kilometre circumference paddock, and then we have an out and back up a not so difficult hill, which is about 1.25 kilometres. So that now makes up the satellite event, the 6.7056 kilometres.
The out and back is in the middle, so you do anti-clockwise loop, clockwise loop, out and back, anti-clockwise loop, clockwise loop.
I saw your post about it on the Facebook page, and one of the things I really like about the course you've designed is that you can actually see the runners the whole course.
Pretty much the whole time, yeah. Just a little bit on the out and back, they'll disappear for a couple of minutes, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's really good because it's a real spectator event as well. There'll be a lot of people there to watch, and especially at night time, I think it'll be cool seeing them running.
Yeah, seeing the headlights move around. Yeah.
Where the is at a high point in the paddock, and so you can, you might miss 20 metres or so, but basically you can see people run around the entire paddock. And yes, our experience we did actually move the race hub from 2020 to 2022 as well. What happened in the meantime is that we built our house on the property, and we decided that for convenience of runners and crews, it was better to have the race hub near the house. But from that vantage point, as I was going to say, you can see right round, and at night time with all the lights going, it's pretty spectacular. I think also for the runner with this loop course, you'll be cheered. You'll be cheered on 4 times every loop. Anybody who's thinking about quitting will probably be firmly told not to, and get back out there. So, we're pretty pumped. Bit of rain to come this week, but look, it's looking quite special actually, the course.
Yeah, well, the forecast is pretty good. There's a lot of rain forecast to Thursday, but after that, it's all beautiful. It looks like it's going to be pretty similar today, and today's just perfect.
Yeah, it's a matter of how much the grass gets to dry up on Friday, Saturday. But my assumption is it'll be pretty similar to what it was when I ran it yesterday, and that was acceptable, I'd say. Yeah. Probably better than it. Like, if you consider the weather, it's a pretty darn good course.
Yeah,
what it could be.
And the whole course is on grass, is it, or are there any gravel patches or anything like that, or it's all grass?
It's all grass. Most of it's kind of quite rocky along the sort of, I don't know which side, I'm going to say the northern boundary. So it's quite hard underfoot grass for some of it.
Oh, yeah.
The out and back is slightly technical in terms of there's some rocks and stuff to watch out for. That might be a little bit of a shock to the system for the first loop at 11 p.m. because it'll be very dark. But I think they'll get used to that. Again, the ground is quite hard, but it is grass, yes. There may be some sections that'll get soft. I can't think of them. Luckily, I mean, that home paddock, and probably no coincidence that paddock is the one that seems to drain the best on the farm.
Yeah. And you mentioned in that Facebook post as well, you think the elevation is under 100 metres?
I can't do the maths and get it to the 130 that I got on Strava because I honestly don't see how a loop of the home paddock is more than 20 metres elevation. Of course, you're doing it 4 times.
Yeah.
So that's 80. And then there's probably 20 in the out and back. So that's what I think, but I could be wrong.
Put in perspective, the original Mirrim Wurnit course is 160 to 170 metres. We're pretty confident we've taken off a lot more than 30 metres because we don't have that back paddock with the big hill and all the rest. So I think if I had to hazard a guess, it's probably 70 to 80 metres in elevation.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There's nothing that you would call a hill except for the out and back. Otherwise, it's just kind of undulating. Yeah.
Sounds nice. And you mentioned earlier snakes. Are the runners going to have to worry about any animals like snakes? And are you going to have like livestock on the course while they're running, or will they be in a separate area?
No, we will have livestock on the course. Not that they have to avoid them. The sheep and the alpacas will be penned with temporary wire inside the paddock, so they'll be running around the outside of the sheep. So, really the sheep and the alpaca's job is just to provide a bit of entertainment each loop.
Yeah, cool.
There shouldn't be snakes at this time of year. I'd be
no. Pato, people that ran in 2019 will remember that we did have the cattle in the paddock, in the back paddock on that run, and so there was all sorts of stories of what the cows were getting up to in the middle of the night, and people sort of running along and being surprised by the odd cow, which was a great feature, but probably not what we need for the satellite event.
Yeah, there's no cows in the home paddock. I'm assuming, Peter, there's none in the front paddock where the out and back is either.
We've taken all the cows out. Nothing to avoid here.
And there's been a little bit of talk about when the actual first loop starts. I'm pretty sure it's 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
time, right?
Yeah, it's 11 p.m.
Yeah, very good. And as far as the event being open to the public, can anyone come along who wants to watch?
They certainly can. Now, we encourage people, particularly from the local running community, to come and watch. The only issue is that parking is limited, but that shouldn't be a problem. We had no problem in our event that had 40 runners back in April, so I don't expect it's an issue this time. I only say that because obviously we don't want people driving onto the course while runners are going around.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the good things about it starting later is people who want to watch can get there with plenty of time without having to interrupt the race, I guess.
I'm anticipating that spectators will be more a Sunday thing.
Yeah.
It's a pretty dedicated person that comes out for an 11 o'clock start on a Saturday.
But we're certainly encouraging people to come on Sunday morning. There'll be a coffee cart for takeaway coffees by one of our local baristas. Peter and I and some of the other volunteers will be cooking up breakfasts and all sorts of things. So I think it'll be a pretty good festival atmosphere on the Sunday morning in particular.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And as far as keeping up to date with the progress of the race, how are people going to be able to do that? I know there's a YouTube stream. Can you tell us about that and anything else?
We've got a call this evening with Fabian Duflos, who's Laz's media guy, and he's going to talk us through all of the technology side of it this evening. Our understanding is we have an internet-enabled device. We can hook up to 5 or maybe even 10 of them up to it, so to get different angles and shots. It's going to be broadcast live on YouTube for the entire event.
Yeah.
URL, don't know yet. So hopefully that will get published I assume it will get published in advance of the event. Key statistic for Australians, though, is I'm pretty confident it's 9 a.m. on Monday morning is Australia hour. So that hour of the broadcast will be dedicated to the Australian team and the Australian course. Yeah. And you'll see video profiles of a bunch of the runners. You even get to listen to me talking a bit about the event. And you'll see our start line and finish line. If it all goes to plan, that's going to happen on Monday morning.
Yeah, sounds good. Are you going to have anyone sing the national anthem before the start?
Hadn't thought of that. Both of the previous Mirrim Wurnit Back Paddock Ultras, we've had a traditional elder come out and do a welcome to country and a smoking ceremony. And that was pretty cool last time. And I think Laz appreciated that when he was there last time. We haven't booked that for this. We thought the 11 o'clock was just a bit awkward for everyone. So I've proposed things like a team photograph and stuff in the lighthouse. But the vibe I'm getting from the team is leave us alone until just before the start, because we want to kind of do our own thing. And so it's probably going to be a bit of a low-key kickoff, I reckon. Yeah, sure. I think it might be a good idea to just quickly go through each runner, because it's a hot field. We've got some awesome runners running. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll just list them and we'll just talk about each runner for a couple of minutes if you like. So first of all, I've got written down Tim Kaprajak, who I know actually went down to the property to give it a bit of a road test recently.
Yeah. The correct spelling the correct pronunciation of his name is on your last podcast.
Right.
I never really knew what it was until
I think, David, if you can pronounce it, you can teach us. To be honest, but we'll go with Tim K. But no, Tim came out a couple of weeks ago with Ross McPhee, who was the winner of this year's Mirrim Wurnit event, and I had them do the course that we had planned. So we had our 6.7 kilometre course, which again didn't cross the creek, but it sort of went along flattish paddocks down towards the south. They ran all of that, but they ran the shortened course, or not the shortened course, but the abridged course as well. And they're pretty confident. I don't know if it was Tim or Ross, Pete, that came away predicting 71. That was their number, but that's a pretty high number. Since then, we've had numbers that go a lot higher than that, but that was just an early prediction.
Yeah. Tim qualified through the silver ticket at Backyard Vista in New South Wales. I actually have run with Tim quite a while ago, and I bet he doesn't know this. First time I ever ran a 100 miler was at the Yuyangs. I think it was 2016, and I'm pretty sure he won that event, and he lapped me on a 100 mile.
Really? Yeah.
20 kilometre loop. So I think I remember him lapping me 2 or 3 times on that event.
Yeah. he does a lot of running at the Yuyangs. He knows it like the back of his hand, I think.
So definitely him then. Yeah.
So I think Tim's 34 laps is his number for going in, but I'm sure he's capable of more than that.
Yeah. Well, he was on the last podcast I did, and he said he did the 34 at the MVP without realising about the Australian team, and he kind of said he might have even put in a couple more laps than that if he knew about it. So
he's definitely one of the lively advocates for our event in the groups that we've got.
Yeah. Ryan Crawford.
He's the White Kenyan.
Isn't he? Yeah, the White
seed.
Yeah.
Don't know him, haven't met him. He's a beast by all accounts.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to having him.
Yeah. Well, he was also on the last podcast, and when I asked them for their kind of like goals and predictions, he was adamant, like at least 70. So being the Australian record holder as well, I think he's really he's really excited about running with this strong bunch of runners to give him an opportunity to be able to smash his best total as well.
He comes across as the guy with quite a he's got his own mindset to it.
Yeah.
In our WhatsApp group this morning, I'm just going to read a couple of words that he said. He said this to our group. He said, "We need to prepare for an absolute war."
Yeah. I love his mindset.
But I think when he says war, I mean he's really promoting the Australian team there as well. So it's not, with all of our runners, it's not just about them setting an individual total and winning Australia or winning the world event. It's all about how can we win the team event. Yeah. And Ryan's right behind that. How can we get as many Aussies to whatever it is, 50 laps or whatever it is, a really big total.
Yeah. And I think also that because each lap counts towards the Australian total as well, that will also be something that drives a lot of the runners to just push for that one more lap kind of mentality as well.
It's a totally different mentality. If you know you can't win, there's still a reason to keep going in this one.
Yeah, that's right. Ross McPhee, we have... Oh, actually, Phil Gore, the Western Australian. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah, we've got a Western Australian contingent, and they all seem to be in cahoots with each other, and they've got their own shirts going. And so I think they're all arriving. A lot of them are arriving on Friday. A couple of them arriving on Saturday morning. He seems to be one of the guys who's got stuff to say as well. Don't know him though. Seems like a lovely guy. Yeah. He keeps picking us up on the technical details of the number of beatings all the time, times and stuff like that.
He's the number by my estimation. I like to call him Pete. He was most concerned when I posted the other day, and I think I pointed out that the course was 6.704 kilometres, and he kindly pointed out that was 1.6 metres too short. So I did assure him and the rest of the team that I'd gone out and we'd moved the post at the out and back by 0.8 of a metre so that we're bang on. Thank you, Phil.
Ross McPhee, who qualified through Mirrim Wurnit, yep.
Yeah, Ross was really interesting at Mirrim Wurnit this year. I think he made it. Well, he's quite understated and a fairly humble guy, but it became clear by everybody sort of talking to his crew and understanding what their schedule was that he'd actually planned them to stay all the way through till Monday evening. And bearing in mind that Mirrim Wurnit starts on a Saturday morning, once word got out that Ross was planning to be there, he had his crew doing shifts, etc., right through to at least 5 o'clock on Monday. I think that might have started to, work on the minds of some of the other runners. I remember when it was just he and Donald running at the end, and they did, Pete, I think maybe 3 or 4 laps together, just the two of them.
Yeah, a few. Yeah.
I could see that Donald was quite capable of going further, but I do wonder whether he just had in the back of his mind that Ross had another 24 hours worth of crew to support him, and that might have been what it did. But look, those mind games are all important. A bit different in this satellite event, but no, he was a great champion and a very worthy winner of our event, I think.
My take on his win was that I agree. I think he had plenty more in him. Our event had a handful of really strong runners who were capable of going far, but there were a few things that happened during the event that didn't go to plan for some of the runners. And I think that when it came down to him and Donald, Don Bailey, I don't think Donald wanted to win as much. He already had the Melbourne Marathon booked into his calendar. The idea of running in the World Championships wasn't in his radar going in. So he was happy to keep pushing Ross for a bit longer, but I don't think he had what an assist. If you want to break a record, you need an assist who's as hungry as the winner. And I don't think we quite had that.
I'll just mention as well, there's a nice little documentary on YouTube that someone made on that last Mirrim Wurnit race too. Yeah. So if anyone wants to watch it, they should just do a search on YouTube and watch it. It's a nice little video.
Yes, and just a shout out to Valerie Ngo who made that. She originally made a longer video as a tribute to her brother Lockie, who was running in the event, and she kindly did do an edited version that really showcased the event. But it is great. It's got all the drone footage and shows the race hub. So no, thanks for pointing that out, Pato. I think any of the competitors or crew that want to get a good idea of what they're preparing for, definitely should go to that video.
Yeah. Next, Aaron Young, another one from WA, I believe.
Yes, another one of the WA crew. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know any of the WA people personally, but they're all chipping in on the group. What can I say about Aaron?
I know that he was the assist when Phil Gore broke the Australian record. Before it was beaten by the White Kenyan, Phil Gore broke it, and Aaron Young was the assist. So I think that was 53 yards he did.
Yeah, I've watched all of their profile videos that they've sent in for the media, but to be honest, because I don't know any of the WA people, I'm struggling in my head to pick which one's which.
Yeah, fair enough. One of the experienced members of the team, Chris Murphy.
He's running bigs, hasn't he, Chris Murphy?
Yeah.
Well, I think he was in. I think he was overdoing UTMB when we were sorting out the team, so he took a while to come back to us. Yeah,
I saw that. He posted some photos of that on his Instagram account. That's really good. But yeah, he did 46 yards, I believe, at Biggs last time when he went there. This is his fifth backyard ultra too, so he's very experienced.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the big names in Australia.
Chris is very positive. I've been reading his posts to our runners WhatsApp group, and he's very positive, not only personally but about the team. So again, I don't know Chris so well. Obviously, I've followed his exploits, but he's certainly on my short list of people to watch.
Yeah, sure. Jessica Smith from WA as well.
Yeah, another WA person, one of two ladies.
Yeah,
in the event, she and Margie Hadley. She's been, from my perspective, from what I'm seeing, keeping a relatively low profile. But I think she and Margie are coming over together and arriving on the Saturday. It's going to be fantastic to have them. Positive vibes is all I'm getting from that.
Sure. And she's run 2 backyard ultras, and she's gone over 40 yards at each one, 45 and 41.
Yeah, she's like number 5 or 6 in the seeding. Yeah. She's one of our top runners.
Yeah, very good.
It's interesting. I was to add there. Sorry, Pat. I was just going to add there. It's interesting. Sorry, I had a phone call coming in the middle of that. So.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry about that. No, it's interesting. I mean, Biggs has shown that females can certainly compete against males in this format, which I think is wonderful. I think in Australia we've probably just had less entrants that are female than males. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Jess and Margie as well can do. I think we've got the best of the best from Australia in this event. So there's no reason any of them can't go to the end.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few WA people in it. Robert Parsons.
Yeah.
He's
yeah. Again, don't know him. I don't really know these WA guys. He seems to be also bringing positive vibes though.
Sure.
How far I can go is what I'm seeing from him. And the Hurdies and Birdies crew, they are.
Yeah. I was going to say he's done 36 yards at Hurdies and he improved at Birdies to do 44. So, yeah.
We've got a little bit of a debate going on now about surfaces, whether a hard surface versus a soft one is better for the backyard, with the concept being that the soft surface is probably a little bit easier on the body, but maybe a little bit slower and a bit more draining on the energy. Yeah. Whereas the hard surface, you can run faster and get a longer rest. And the WA guys are in this debate now, but it seems like they're saying that all the WA people who have run both of them have got their PB on the trail one, as opposed to the hard one.
It's an interesting one. I've done 2. The last one I did was basically all asphalt, and it was okay for me, but I guess it's down to the individual as well. Some people's knees aren't as a little bit more fragile than others, I guess. But I think running on a softer surface would be a bit better.
Yeah, but the bottom line is that you've got to go for as absolute long as possible, and the factor factors are that when your body and mind have broken down to a point where you can't go any further, then that's it. And so what is it that's accelerating that breakdown?
Yeah.
If the hard surface is affecting your muscles in such a way that it accelerates the breakdown more than the soft surface, then there's your answer. I don't think we have the stats to prove it, but my theory is...
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Then we've got Ben Nichols.
Yep. We've got Victoria. He's a hardcore Victorian trail ultra runner. And he ran at Mirrim Wurnit, right? And I think he was on your podcast. He mentioned it. Like, I invited him out because he was prioritizing down under 135 at that point. So he really just came out to recce the course, but he did a solid 15 loops. And I remember chatting to him around the campfire afterwards.
Yeah.
Would never rule him out. I think he's relatively local to Mirrim Wurnit. He's also a farmer.
I know he lives out in Timboon, which is out towards the 12 Apostles kind of way.
So not local then, but a fellow
Dairy country.
Yeah.
But Ben has finished I'm going to say twice, is that right?
I know he's run it twice. I'm not sure if he
maybe
finished. Yeah, I'm not sure if he finished it, but he's definitely run it twice.
Yeah. Another strong competitor from Victoria.
Yeah, he's tough. The first backyard ultra I did was the one at MVP earlier this year, and that's the one that he won. He went for 41 yards, and like we mentioned in the last podcast, it was very, very tough conditions, very hot, a lot of elevation. So
not only that, that was the second one that was the second backyard that I ever ran, was MVP. And as you say, a lot of elevation, but lots of change, of course. I mean, you're going up and then down and then up and then down. But not only that, going back to our previous conversation, a lot of it is on asphalt as well.
Yeah.
Or concrete even. So there's that factor as well. I think 41 is an amazing achievement on that course.
Yeah. Well, it did break the course record. Smashed the course record, actually. So I couldn't believe it. Like, the next day, I finished after 16 yards and went home, went to sleep, woke up on Sunday and they were still going. And I just couldn't believe it.
Yep.
I think that the DU135 thing, there's a pedigree of DU135 runners at Mirrim Wurnit historically. And in our first one, I think 6 of the last 8 were people that had done DU135. And the trail format might favour those types of runners. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Next, I've got John Yoon.
John Yoon.
Yoon.
Well,
John Yoon actually came out to run our virtual Mirrim Wurnit backpaddock ultra that Pete alluded to earlier. I think he might have done 9 or 10 yards, but as I said, it was just for fun. And he just had John Yoon is that type of guy that just has a smile on his face the entire time. He was happy. He was in his element. He had a great time out here. But of course, he's done so many different things, whether it be, track, 24-hour type ultras, long distance point to point, etc. So I'm not as familiar with. I don't know how many backyards he's done. So
I think he's only done one.
Yeah,
obviously one, but he's just good on a lot of different surfaces, a lot of different types of event.
Yeah, he's represented Australia before in the 24 hours. So this is his second time donning an Australian Guernsey.
Yeah, it's a good double, isn't it?
Maybe third time. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's run over 200 kilometres 4 times in 24-hour track races. So
when I did my first ever 24-hour track, Coburg, I'm going to say it was 2017, might have been 2016.
Yeah.
John was running that. John won that.
Right.
And I was lucky enough. I didn't have the level of family support that he had. His partner crewed me for that as well. I don't know if he knows this or she knows it, but she ended up kind of adopting me.
Right.
And every time I came past, she was offering me stuff. So, and I remember he won that event.
Yeah.
And you were only 1 or 2 laps behind him, Pete. Wasn't that right?
Hey, I think I came 4th. So let's not go there. I think he beat me by about 50 odd kilometres. But
Yeah. Matt Doobie.
Yeah, I know Matt.
Yeah,
You go, Matt.
Yeah, Victorian. He's one of the ones that's very into the backyard ultra concept.
Yeah.
He's a little bit of a purist in that sense. I've separate WhatsApp messages and stuff with him discussing the ins and outs of the rules and the psychology of it. So he's definitely one of our big sort of.
He's one of the unique runners. He's like a backyard ultra specialist. He's unlike the others with a lot of different type of ultra experience. He specialises in the backyard ultra.
Yeah, he's sort of made it thing, and he was supposed to run at Mirrim Wurnit this year, and it was the weekend of his brother's wedding, which just made it impossible for him. But he did come out, and he came out and met us, and he got to meet and have a chat with Laz as well that afternoon. So it was quite fun. Yeah,
very good. I've got Chris Martin on the team as well, another WA boy.
Yes. This is not Chris Martin from Coldplay, by the way.
Chris Martin is one of the soft course advocates, I think.
Right.
He's very he's excited that we've got the grass course, and I think it was him that was pointing out the Hurdies versus Birdies thing in our discussion. So he's positive vibes. Don't know the guy.
Yeah. Well, I reckon the softer course is a benefit. You just don't want it too muddy, but as long as it's not muddy, I reckon it's a benefit for sure.
100%, and that was our key criteria in finalising the course. You can avoid mud, you can go around it, and all the rest of it. But what you often do doing that is actually create a spread of mud, and particularly as I said before, thinking of crew, thinking of runners, we don't need that. It's possible there'll be a few squelchy bits, but I'm pretty confident. Not much mud, if any at all, on Saturday.
I was thinking this morning, you're hearing this for the first time, Peter Munns, if the sort of runway, the straights of the back paddock start getting muddy, I'm not sure that they will. They look pretty solid to me. If they start getting muddy, I think it would be possible for us to create a deviation around the mud and adjust the out and back to compensate for it if we needed to. It wouldn't be something we could just do on the fly, but it's something that we could organise once in the event if we had to. Just bypass a certain area and add, 10 metres for that. Or shorten it.
That actually brings up an interesting point that Laz has actually clarified for us, and it's not something I want to reflect on for this particular event, but Laz has actually clarified that in other backyard events around the world, many times they've been forced to change the course mid-race, whether it be because of falling debris or mud or just hailstorms or what have you. I think Laz said in Belgium once they resorted to doing loops of a car park because they just had a course change that made that what they had to do. But he said, look, if you have to do that during the race, as long as again everybody at the race is faced by the same thing, that's absolutely fine.
I think also, as you mentioned before, if the course is undulated with no big hill or anything like that, probably the runners might choose their walk points to be the muddiest bits because there's no obvious hill they can walk up.
The out and back has a hill, and that will be an obvious walk point, but that's only about 400 metres.
Right, yeah.
Distance, but you're right. I think there are obvious. Yeah, there are obvious spots that you'd walk.
I actually think having obvious walk points is really important. You're absolutely right, Pato. I find that mentally, where you've got a course where you go, you know what, I'm never going to run up this hill, or I'm never going to, run down between a bunch of rocks. I'm just going to walk it. Mentally, you can sort of think about it every lap, and I think it's quite beneficial.
Yeah. Definitely. I've got Margie Hadley written down as well. We mentioned her before, but she's doing her 4th backyard ultra for the year.
Yeah, she's. I follow her on Strava for, I think, because couple of years ago, when we cancelled 2020 and we put on 2021, we organised a virtual ultra, which was a Sydney to Melbourne simulation. I'm pretty sure she joined and ran in those, and that's how I became acquainted with her name, and we were sort of following each other on Strava, and so I remember her Strava being very impressive.
Yeah.
On the times when I've looked at it. So don't know her, but I do know that she runs a lot.
Yeah.
And she's part of the scene there.
And she ran a good practice, a tune-up. She had a tune-up at the No Time to Die a few weeks ago, just running the 24 hours just to tune up for the event, I guess.
As you do.
Yeah. Carl Douglas is another
WA guy.
Yeah.
From WA, aren't they? Yeah.
We've been thinking about making up an unofficial battle of the states as a sort of a subset to this whole thing. As Peter said, the WA team will not only have the Australian t-shirts, but they've gone and made up their own WA shirt. But we may have to suggest to some of the other states that they either bring Victorian ultra runners, buffs, or whatever it is, and have a little competition within a competition. Obviously, It would just be good fun, but anything that stimulates a bit of fire in the belly and gets people to run it, that extra lap or that extra 2 laps is certainly worthwhile.
A bit of extra interest for the people watching too, maybe.
Well, Carl Douglas is one of the, if I'm not wrong, he's one of the later members of the team. So I had to go through this process of, there was a few runners that couldn't make it, and I had to go through the process of ruling them out. And I'd lined up the next people in line to say, there's a chance that you may be invited to the team, and he was in that category. And as soon as I gave him the initial, there's a chance, he knows some of the runners. He was very excited, very positive, and so it was really satisfying to be able to offer him the slot. It's a few weeks ago now, but
wasn't Carl speculating? I think he was actually speculating as to whether certain runners above him on the list were going to make it or weren't going to make it, where they might be, whether they were sick, whether they were travelling, etc., etc.
He was one of the ones who seemed to know what was going on with the WA team. Yeah.
Very keen to see where he was.
Just before I forget, the name of the team, the Red Backyarders, pretty awesome name.
Yeah, that was a poll on our Facebook group.
I like it. Ben Hurst is
Ben is an early. Ben did run at 2019.
Yeah,
I'm going to say he came. Did he come 4th at Mirrim Wurnit that year, Pete, or was it 5th?
Oh, maybe 3rd. I can't remember. He was up there.
He'll probably kill me, and it probably was the point was he did very well in 2019. Then we saw him come back to the very first MVP. He's obviously been up north and done Glen Eastwood and some others. Did a very good effort back here in 2022. So yeah, he's one of those real specialist backyarders. And even at home in Tasmania, he's obviously done Devil's Lair recently, but he's also volunteered to do laps of his local oval for charity on different occasions. So he doesn't mind going around in circles, old Ben. And he really does train for this event. He does other things, but he really does see himself as being quite handy at the backyard format.
Yeah. And do you have any predictions, or what do you want to see? What are your predictions? What do you want to see on the weekend?
I reckon that starting on the negative side, the first to fall is going to end up being somebody that has an unexpected problem, like a stomach issue or some sort of niggle, or they've come in with a niggle and we don't know about it. I don't think anyone's going to quit anytime early without there being something like that. So it's impossible to say who that'll be, because it's going to be caused by something like that,
or carrying an injury into the event that we don't know about. Something like that, I think. But I guess the really big question is, when we talk about that first person to fall, barring anything totally unexpected, what will the total be? I fully expect that the number will be north of what we've achieved at Mirrim Wurnit for our winner in the past, but I just don't know. You'd like everybody to get to 40, but I certainly don't want to start putting the moz on people. Some people probably think I'm being too pessimistic and we'll all get 50, but it's one of those things that's just so hard to predict. I mean, as Pete said, there's always something unexpected that comes up and, sadly affects one or two runners. So
I'm more upbeat than you on this. I reckon that we're in the 60s, 70s. I'd be really surprised from the vibe I'm getting. There's some runners who aren't going to quit. They're not going to go. And it takes
I think I was talking about the bottom number, not the top number.
Fair enough. Yeah, so top number, I think we're going to, it's hard. You feel like you're going out on a limb predicting the Australian record will go, but I know that the guy who's holding it's intending to break it. So it's a matter of having an assist.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll see anyone drop out before 24 hours, that's for sure. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah. Pete and I have got holidays booked from work until Wednesday, so that might give you some indication.
I wonder whether the time of day is going to play a part in this as well. So if you were to wait for 24 hours, you'd be coming out in the middle of the night on Sunday. And if I were doing this, I'd be expecting to go through at least 2 nights.
Yeah.
So that puts you into the 30s.
Yeah.
For bottom expectations for the majority of runners, I reckon.
I think anybody who's done an ultra run knows that whether it's a backyard or whether it's a 100-mile or a 200-mile, what have you, everybody knows that those dawns are something special, and you can really push yourself through the night to see the dawn. And then, of course, you sort of start to think, well, it's sunny now. I can actually see. I can go that bit further. So, as you say, you're at 30. Well, you're a bit above 30 by the time you get dawn on Monday morning, and I think just that daylight, etc., will push people, closer to midday. So, then you're at 36 hours. So it's the weather, the time of day, all of those things will play a big part.
Yeah, I just think the strength of the team alone is enough. Even if it was the toughest course in Australia, I still think that the team alone would get them 65 plus.
Let's hope for that. Let's hope for 72.
Yeah. But I noticed it looks like when you talk about dawn wait with the sun coming up and stuff like that, you posted a beautiful photo of the view there the other day of the sun. Was it sunset?
Yeah, I think that was a sunset at our 2022 event in April. But that was taken at a sunset. Or it might have been a sunrise. I honestly can't remember. Yeah.
All right.
But so you've got right now at the course, Pato, you've got light from 6:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. So certainly that's going to help us. It could be longer, but that's a good amount of daylight to be able to run in. We don't, of course, have a separate night course like they do at Biggs, so it will be the same. I know, some people push themselves to get to the night course at Biggs because it's just that much easier, and then they think they can go through the night. We're not doing that, but I think our course, has all the elements of both easiness and a few gnarly bits that it'll average out.
Yeah, I think so. I think having that psychological thing in your mind, knowing that the course is going to change soon, I'll keep pushing so I can be here for the course change. I don't think they'll need that. They'll have enough fire in their bellies. They've got enough motivation to keep going anyway without needing a course change.
Yeah, so I don't think runners are coming out to this to hit a master, and they're coming out to go as far as they can.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a really good point, Pete. Because that's what you see at all backyard ultras. You see that spike of people, whether it be leaving, is it 16 laps, 15 or 16 laps when you hit 100 kilometres, obviously 24 laps when you hit 100 miles. And if you've ever looked at the statistics, there's a peak in people dropping out at those points. There won't be anything like that this time.
No. So I'm planning on coming down on the Saturday evening, I think, while it's still light. I'm going to stay for the whole time, so I'll be happy to volunteer, do anything you guys need. I'll bring down my tent. There'll be somewhere to pitch a tent, I assume.
Yep,
Absolutely.
Right by the race hub. They're in there.
Awesome. I am so looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Well, we'll see you for a barbecue on Saturday before the event then.
Yeah, great. Well, we might wrap things up. Thanks so much for making the time to call in. It's been a great conversation, I reckon.
Thanks very much for having us. Hopefully this gives people a bit of a view of what's going on and what to expect.
Was there anything else you wanted to mention that I might have missed or we might have missed?
I don't think so. I think you've covered it.
I think we covered most things. May the best woman or man win.
Yeah.
And may the best country win.
Yep. Go Australia. All right. Thanks again for the two Peters for that chat. That was really good, really informative, and it was a lot of fun. Now, if you enjoy this podcast, if you could subscribe, like, and comment, that would be awesome. Next week, hopefully, I'll be back with one or two runners from the Backyard Ultra Championships. And until then, enjoy the weekend and have a good one.